Welcome to Body Hack and Build a Better You, the podcast where we unlock the secret to living a longer, healthier life and create a bloom zone in our life and within our family. I'm your host, Michaela Morel, and I'm here to provide you with the tools and knowledge to empower you to build a better you, one essential building block at a time. In today's episode, you will hear Gigette's story, a teacher from Phoenix, Arizona, who have faced many different health struggles linked to stress and compromised microbiome. Starting in childhood, Gidget dealt with asthma, hospitalization, and frequent antibiotics, setting the stage for persistent health issues. She will share her battles with losing her sense of smell after COVID-19, battling unexplained burning sensation in her ankles, and navigating a chronically unbalanced gut. This episode is also talking about her daughter, who suffered from constipation from age 3 to 15 with no relief from gut health specialists. Fortunately, Gidget found solutions that turned her health around and brought lasting improvements in her daughter's well-being. I want to remind you that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Read the disclaimer in the show notes, and I want to remind you to always consult your healthcare provider if you plan to make any dietary changes. And now, let's start the episode. Welcome to Body Hacking Build a Better You. I'm sitting here with my lovely friend Gigette, and I met Gidget a couple of years ago while I was living here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I am back here traveling right now. And I got the opportunity to talk with her again because I feel her story can be very inspiring as she have found a big interest in health and nutrition and trying to figure out her own body in natural ways. So I think her story will inspire you today. So thank you guys for being here and listening today. Gidget, welcome to my show.
Well, thank you, Michaela.
I would love for my listeners to get to know who Gigette is. So, would you love to tell us a little bit on how you grew up? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Um, I grew up here in Arizona, and my family raised sheep and cattle. And so much of my life was spent around the animals or on the ranch. And so that's pretty much my childhood out having fun. And then I went to college and started in journalism and then soon wanted to start a family and realized that that wasn't very conducive to family life. So I became a teacher. And so for 25 years, I was in the classroom. And then for part of that time, I owned my own business. I had an after school math and reading franchise for 13 years. And
So, you did that after your teaching hours?
for 2 years, I did. Yes. So very hectic, very busy. Yes.
And what ages were you teaching?
So the program, it was out of Japan, and so they started at age 2, and it went through high school. It was a great program.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
so I worked with all those ages.
Lovely. And after like, so you said that you have been teaching now for 25 years. Like, are you still teaching or what are you doing now?
No, so right before COVID, so a few years before COVID, I started noticing some health issues. For example, just due to the stress with my schedule in teaching, I got shingles. And then I also got diverticulitis and had some urinary tract infections because as a teacher, you can't just go to the bathroom. So you're lucky if you get to go to the bathroom. So I realized that it was starting to take a toll and I started to look for something else. So that's I left the classroom and then COVID happened. So yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So take us through COVID because you did struggle a little bit with your health before and you like decided to make some changes. How did COVID affect your health?
So during COVID, I felt like I really started to take my health seriously.
Was that what really opened up your eyes towards health?
Yes, and then just my experiences and getting older, I just the importance of it just became much more greater. And so during COVID, I started taking various supplements, as many people did, and doing my research. And so that's what started this.
For you guys that don't see Gigette, you might only be listening to this through a podcast. You might see it on YouTube, but for you who doesn't see her, she's a Very beautiful woman. You can clearly see some gray hair in your hair and some wrinkles coming up of the graceful aging. But do you there, can you share with the audience how old you are now?
Sure. I
I'm
am
putting her on the spot here. Sorry, but I think it's important for people to like know because a lot of people are struggling with aging and like not aging itself, but the symptoms and with health and just the thought of like, what can I do to maybe improve my life so I have better quality of life for as long as possible?
absolutely. So I am 57 and
Do not look like it, but
thank you. So my mother, she had many wrinkles and she embraced her her aging. And so I look to her as an example, which is contradictory to what we see, in much of society now. And so I started graying in my 30s, and so I had to color my hair, and I've been down multiple avenues of coloring my hair, which I loved. And then after COVID, I had a major family change, and so just had to make some changes. And so I said, okay, well, this is who I am. This is who God made me. And so I was just going to embrace that. And so I'm just I started to take the inside of me more seriously than the outside. And prior to that, it was always more outward appearance focused. And so that was the major switch. I started to switch and focus on the inside.
and I feel that is also coming out. Like when people are taking care of their inside, it is easier to have an attractive appearance from the outside too. I I feel it's a little bit sad when people are like, I can't afford these supplements, but I still see them go and dye their hair every week, or like not every week, but every 6 week or 8 weeks or whatever their schedule is, but doing their nails and they're spending so much time on superficial things instead of the inside. So I'm so happy that you came to that conclusion. And also, I love people like when you are starting to embrace your aging process, um, that reflects another type of energy that is very attractive. So I love that you are embracing the aging process because
I don't always like it.
oh, you don't.
Believe me, if I could afford everything, I I don't even know if I at this point in all my journey and learning, I don't even think that I would. But you know what I mean, go down the route of everything that I was doing before, but I'm comfortable now and I am who I am, and that gives me a lot of peace.
Well, I see you're very radiant. Yes. And have you heard one of my favorite songs is The Story? Have you heard that song before? So the lyric goes, all of these lines across my face tell you a story of who I am. So many stories of where I've been and where my life yeah, I can't remember everything, but it's like one of my best, like favorite songs, and I love singing on it. And every time I see person with scars, with wrinkles, like I go back to that, and I'm like, I get so curious about what I have been through and all the stories behind it. So,
Right, right. And so I have two daughters, and I want to be an example for them to realize that they can be comfortable with their skin. Obviously, we have to take care of ourselves because, like growing up on the ranch, we didn't have sunscreen. So that would be a major change that I would change and wear a hat always, which I didn't. So that contributed to this. So,
when we're talking about sunscreen, though, it's not always the
no,
best option, but
right.
sun hat would be maybe beneficial.
Yes.
And also, like when we're talking about the skin being able to handle sun better and radiation better, we're coming into that a little bit later, but it's also the ratio is being a big thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have two lovely daughters
Yes. And
and
a son, but
and a
yes,
son.
yes.
But it's usually the daughters we're setting an example.
Hmm.
I mean, a bigger example. Guys doesn't usually care that much about their appearance as much as a woman would. But what a beautiful example you are to them. And okay, so tell us a little bit more. Okay, so what happened during COVID?
So during COVID, that's when I started researching and I started taking supplements. And
What kind of supplements did you start taking?
there was quite a few, but just to name a couple, high doses of vitamin D and zinc. And so those were, there were some others. I had quite a large little box going of supplements, but that's what started me on the journey. So
So if I go home now to your pantry, I mean, I know some of you now, but before then,
Mhm.
before I get to know you, if I would have come to your house and opened up the kitchen cabinet, would I found the whole shelf with supplementation then?
You would have found turmeric, elderberry, all of that. Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit then, what happened after that?
So then that's when I decided I really needed to make a change in my life as far as working because it was taking its toll, the stress. And so um plus another life change. And so I took another job, and my boss that I was working with, one day we started just talking, and I started sharing some information about some gut and struggles that I had had with my diverticulitis, and then also with my daughter. With she suffered from constipation from the time that she was 3, major constipation, and so during COVID for her, that also came to just it was an abrupt shock. And so that led me to some specialists at um, the the children's hospital here in Phoenix, and lots of different tests, and we still arrived at no answers. And so my boss had told me about some products that she had been taking, and she suggested that look into it. So I did, and we both started taking it. First, we tested because I knew that there was something going on, but I didn't have any answers. And I sought out the experts. And so started on the products and immediately noticed positive changes. So yeah, it was a game changer. And that's what really started me on the deep dive and into healing the insides.
So when you're saying both of you started, was that you and your boss or you and your daughter?
Oh, that was my daughter and I. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have been through the route of seeing all different experts,
Mhm.
and were they ever able to help a little bit or at all? Or
Sadly, no. I wish I could say yes because I really had full confidence in my doctors, and they're great people. Um, but the answers or the suggestions that they were recommending, for example, probably, well, it was right around COVID. I started to have hot fire right behind my ankles where I couldn't jump anymore. I love to dance and jump around, and I couldn't do that. And with my grandchildren, of course, jumping and playing and hopping, and it hurt, and I couldn't do it. And so then my doctor suggested some tests, and the tests came back negative. And so there again, it was a dead end. There were no answers. So
okay. So and these testings, they were main like what kind of testing did they do for your heels? Like,
rheumatoid arthritis, and then they did some other blood work too.
and there was never any answers, and you were just constantly having pain in your ankles. Like, how long was that going on?
That was going on for about 2 years. And I mean, it didn't interfere with my daily life as far as walking or anything like that. But when I would try to jump and have fun, oh, it would let me know. And I could feel like the heat sensation, but of course, just carry on.
Okay. So when like, exactly how long were you struggling with this, did you say?
It was probably close to 3 years all total before I got relief.
So tell us a little bit about the relief you get. What was it that your coworker was telling you about?
So specifically, my coworker was recommending the xenobiotic, which is the prebiotic fibers with, I believe it's like 7 different strains, and immediately that helped my daughter and I with our gut health, and it helped relieve her constipation. And believe me, we had been down the route, many different routes for her, to the point where when she was little, we would go and they would recommend an x-ray, and her x-ray, Michaela, it would come back to where everything was backed up underneath her rib cage. And they would recommend Miralax for a month. And when she was little, I noticed a change in her. And I told my pediatrician, I said, I'm noticing some behavior changes with this, like rage, like just spontaneous anger. And and I searched it online and I saw other moms talking about it, and I brought it up to him and he said, "Oh no, no, no." And but I knew in my heart, I'm like, I've noticed a change in her. So then that started me on like the natural route with, we did prune juice, bran, raisin bran, magnesium calm, Miralax. We did all of that. And it would help a little bit, but then we would be right back to where we were again, and we'd end up in the doctor's office again, another x-ray, probably about 4 or 5 x-rays, I'm sad to say. But then, so then through COVID, when we ended up in the Phoenix Children's Hospital, that's when they did the tests. And again, no answers. But the xenobiotic was a life changer.
So how old is your daughter when you're going through all of this?
Well, it started at age 3, and then it continued. And so she started on the xenobiotic. She's 17 now, so she's been on the product for 2 years. So she started right before she turned 15. And we go on vacation and she asks for it. She'll say, "Mom, did you bring it?" Because she knows.
Okay, so from the age of 3 until she was 15, she struggled with chronic constipation. And
And she would drink water. They would say, "Oh, make sure you're drinking lots of water." She would drink, the large hydro flask, 32 ounces. That was not an issue.
so
And I took her to a chiropractor and they would do massage and different things. Still, we tried it.
yeah, I mean, as someone that have also struggled with constipation my whole life, it is very frustrating when you go to the doctors and they're telling you eat more fruit and veggies, drink more water, and that's not the case. And I I have already been talking a little bit about different things that can also cause constipation. Some people, it's a gluten sensitivity that you don't know about, and if you have gluten, you can be constipated for 2 weeks in a row. But the problem is with gluten is that it stays in your system for 3 months. You can't really know if the constipation is related to gluten unless you are really off
Mm.
gluten for over 3 months. And in most cases, it's very hard for parents to try to have kids stay away from gluten with the food they are eating at daycare or at school. Like it is almost, I would not say impossible, but it's almost impossible to get them through those 3 months to really see if that is the problem. But what a joy then. So I assume that you guys did some testing as well,
Mhm.
because I know that you have been on your balance journey and you did that simultaneously as doing the prebiotic fibers. So when you did the testing, what did your tests show?
Sure. Before I tell you what our test scores were, because they're embarrassing, but I need to tell you that we did the elimination diets. We did the dairy and the gluten. And like you said, it's very, very difficult. But anyway, so our test results,
Did you see any effect by doing the elimination diet?
no, no change.
And how long did you do the elimination diets for?
We did the dairy for, it was almost 2 months. And the gluten, we did it for longer. But like you said, there were, like, I call it breakthrough gluten, um, snacks or meals. So yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So my test scores.
Yes.
Okay. So my omega 6 to omega 3 test, my dry blood test that I took, was 31 to 1.
31 to 1. And in reference, when I took mine, I was 9 to 1. So it's very high,
Mhm.
lots of inflammation going on in every single cell.
And I think the national average for people in the United States is around 25. So yeah, I was even higher than that. And my daughter was 35 to 1.
35 to 1. And okay, so when you first saw the test result, what was your initial thought about, like, what emotions did that wake?
Anger. I was very frustrated, but then after I got over that, there was relief because then I thought, okay, at least I know I have some information now so that I can resolve that. And so then I started on the balance oil. And by the way, um, I should tell you that I put my daughter on an omega-3, um, and it was through Nordic, and because that was supposed to help also with the anger and the behavior, the rage, I should say.
Who told you that, or how did you find out that information?
I found that out through research, mom groups, my own research.
So you put her on some other omega-3 prior. How old was she when you tried that?
So she was probably, I would say, 10. So she was on the omega-3 oil, fish oil, for about 3 years, and then we stopped taking it.
Okay, so already, did you see any effect then? Did you like notice any difference from that time?
So during the 3 years that she was on it, yes, she was she was a little more calmer, just a little less edgy, I would say. But her gut health, it still continued. So um,
Okay, so a little bit of effect,
yeah.
and but gut health was still the same.
hmm
So, but how long would you say after you got started? Because you did the prebiotic fibers and omega-3 at the same time after you did the
hmm
testing and you saw your result and you started implementing that. Um, did you also do multivitamins during that period of time?
When I started the balance oil,
Yeah.
yeah, oh yes, I started the
You started the full health protocol.
yes.
So how long time would you say that after you started the health protocol, did you see the relief? Because you said the both of you said saw relief in your, especially your stomach health, like.
So we started at the end of April. We took a vacation in June, and during that vacation, she asked me if I had brought it. So it was within the month, like I would say, maybe just a couple of weeks. We noticed.
And I remember you coming home from your vacation and be like so joyful
Yeah.
because it have never been a vacation that have been easy because of her gut problems. So I remember the joy. Can't you just describe like how joyful you were at getting through that vacation with her?
Oh, well, it was like, we had unlocked something because we could really just enjoy the vacation without having to worry about, oh, have you gone to the bathroom? When was the last time you went to the bathroom? And just having those kind of uncomfortable conversations that, children don't like to have with their mother, right? So,
Especially not when they're like 15.
no, no, not at all. So,
Okay. So that's your daughter, and today her gut health is really fine, and she's thriving and evolving and being a youth that is able to live a normal life, right?
absolutely. Soon to be a young adult. Yes.
Ah, she's hitting that mark. Okay, and so in your case, what happened with, because you have mentioned fire in your heels, we have talked a little bit about your gut health also improving, but what else did you starting like, yeah, tell us a little bit what's happened with your story.
So I started the protocol, like I said, and then when we came back from vacation, I went for an annual checkup, and that's when I reported to my doctor about the fire in my heels. And so then he ordered the rheumatoid arthritis test and another test, blood work, and so that came back with, no answers, but it did reveal that I had high cholesterol. And so at that point, he wanted to put me on a statin. And then I remember talking to you because I have full confidence in you. And you said that will put you in a pre-diabetic state. And since much of my family suffers from type 2 diabetes as they get older, that was something that I wanted to avoid. So I said, I'm going to try some other natural. I'm gonna work on it and attack it in other ways. And so that's what I did. So I started taking the Viva, which I love because
It's a supplementation with saffron. Saffron is proven to help with mood, sleep, anxiety, depression. There are so many studies around it. So you can get saffron from other place. We just chose that supplementation because it's one that I like and trust and have seen works really good.
Mhm. And so I mentioned my major life change. And so I had not dreamt in 3 years. I did not have a dream, lots of stress. And so right when I started taking the Viva, I started dreaming again. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So, yeah. And even my daughter's sometimes she will get a little anxious, as people do when you go into new environments. And so she will take a couple of Viva before if she has to go into something stressful, like a group meeting and like an interview type of situation. And that's her go-to. And I love it because it's all natural.
Yeah. So I have a similar experience with that as well. So I I love it, love it, love it.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, so you what about like but so chronologically we are getting in balance. We have been testing. You are on the health protocol, but you're still struggling with the burning in your heels. That is something that is not resolved by itself.
Mhm.
But you went to the doctors. Um, they said you have high cholesterol. High cholesterol, by the way, it's a stupid test to take. We all need cholesterol. High cholesterol is just an indicator of you having lots of inflammation in your body. We were kind of targeting the inflammation, but something more was going on in your body. And so we decided to do a cleanse.
Yes.
So we did a cleanse that can target senescent cells, the zombie cells. And it's a cleanse that we're doing for 2 weeks. We're doing 4 tablets a day of a very high curcumin supplement with black pepper in, and it's a very cool combination. But we did 4 tablets a day for 2 weeks. And what happened after that, Gidget?
My fire was gone. It was gone. I was started jumping and it was just like, oh my gosh, it's gone. Yeah, it was gone.
So it just disappeared. And I mean, I cannot exactly say exactly why the problem was, but what that cleanse is doing is it's targeting senescent cells. If you want to Google it, Google for zombie cells, and just read about it. But it's basically cells that you gets accumulated in your body and they're not killing themselves like they're supposed to. It's a malfunction. And what we have been able to see is that after people that have had COVID, they usually have an accumulation of senescent cells. It was something with that whole flu season that was causing people to just develop more senescent cells. So those senescent cells, they are causing inflammation. They take our nutrients, they're not giving any energy back, and they're just parasites in our body. They're small zombies. They're taking things and they're not giving anything back, and they're creating major inflammation levels. So being able to clean those out can help reduce the inflammatory responses in your body and also preserve the energy you're eating and actually have it utilized the way it's supposed to. And one of the side effects you had from doing that cleanse was that your fire went away in
Yes.
your heels.
But also, I should tell you, I forgot to mention so I had COVID twice and my sense of smell never fully recovered. And then after I did that cleanse, I was like, do you smell that? And it came back. My sense of smell came back. And since then, I've recommended it to 2 other people, and they have shared similar um, effects too. Yeah.
So 2 other people also lost their smell after having COVID.
Actually, I take that back. One lost their sense of smell, but the other one had lower back pain. And so that it was gone after that.
Ah,
I
interesting.
have the text to prove it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you. I believe you. And I'm not um surprised at all. I've seen so much that it doesn't surprise me at all that they're having that effect. But lovely. So your smell is coming back. Now you've helped another person that have also lost her smell to get her back. And I remember you did call me when that happened. You're like, Michaela, you can never believe I was in the store and I could smell melon and I could smell fruits again. And I was just walking there amazed over being able to smell.
Mhm.
I remember you being like a small child. I started to experience sensories again.
Yeah, my family at one point they got a little annoyed because we were in a large group and I'm like, oh, do you smell that lady's perfume? Oh, it smells so good. And I'm like, oh, stop, mom, you're being weird.
But it's when stuff is happening in your life and you don't really have a time perspective on when things are going to become better or if you're
Hmm.
ever going to be able to smell again. So much of our taste comes from our smell.
Hmm.
So life gets pretty boring when it's
Hmm.
not working correctly. So I understand your joyfulness when you're able to like finally be like, yay, it's back, it's
It's
working.
an awakening. Yes.
It is. So you are still on your journey to
Hmm.
get in balance and we did improve your blood work a lot. You went
Yes.
from
So yeah, so I went from 31 to 1, and then when I retested after 4 months, 120 days, it was 3.8, and I was so excited. I was like, "Yes." And then I thought, "Oh, well, why didn't I get to 3.1?" But then I remembered there were a couple days that I skipped, and so I thought, "Oh, well, maybe that was reason why." But I was still happy. Yeah.
yeah, she was still happy. And I mean, that's a big improvement from 31 down to 3.6 to 1. But optimally, we
Three,
want, oh,
3.8.
3.8 to 1, sorry. But optimally, we want to be at 3.0 to 1 or even a little bit closer. So we were wondering like what was going on. And you did become very diligent after that, like not skipping any days
Hmm.
whatsoever.
Hmm.
And still, after how many months again did you retest?
So I didn't retest until it was, so let me think. It was, it would be three, well, my goodness. It would be almost 2.5 years. It would be actually, it would be 2 years from my second test.
Okay, so 2 years from
This past,
after.
this past August.
Okay. And at that test, what did that show you?
4.3. And I had a suspicion that something was going on in my body because I could feel a little bit of heat returning to my ankles. Nothing like previous where I couldn't jump or anything like that, but I could just feel that little sensation coming back. And so that's when I said, okay, I've got to investigate something else. And I had a suspicion that it was my gut.
So this is so important. I want to stop here and just explain this a little bit. We tested 31 to 1. We put her on a protocol. She responded very well in the beginning. She got down to 3.8. And then we retested 2 years later when she had been very diligent, but she started feeling like something was off and it was at
It was 4.3.
4.3. So her numbers have gotten a little bit worse, even though she had been more diligent with
Hmm.
what her protocol. And since her body responded so well in the beginning, we started seeing that something else was going on. So it's so important to really test because that gives a good indicator like that something is going
Hmm.
on. So after that, what did you start investigating?
So I talked to the people that I knew that I highly respected, and I did some research online, and it led me to take have a thermoscan done of my whole body.
So that is something you might want to look up, a thermoscan.
And I found out a lot from that. And so one of the things, while I was taking, or while the images were being taken, the thermographer she asked, "Do you have chickens?" I didn't know this lady at all. And it really shocked me. And I said, "Yes, I have chickens." And so we talked about that. And then after the scan was finished, I said, "How did you know I had chickens?" And she said, "Oh, I could see." And so then later on in my report, I learned that I had a parasite. So,
So we're going to talk more about parasites and poops in more episodes to come, but parasites is also such a big thing when we're talking about health and nutrition and parasites can really do a big damage to your gut health as well. I actually, when I was young, I don't think I've shared this with my podcast listeners yet, but I was probably around 5 years of age, and we were sitting and was going to have family prayer. So we were all sitting on the floor, and I started like bending over in pain out of a sudden, and I was starting to scream, and it was excruciating. And it ended up like my dad. He's a ambulance. He was a former ambulance driver and
mhm.
was like having all the medical education. He's like, oh no, her gut is disrupting, like her appendix is
Mhm.
burst. We need to take her into the ER right away. So
Mm.
my dad rushed me into the ER and I was in so much pain. I kind of felt like I was blacking out on and off because I was in so much pain. And I got into the ER and they drove me in to do an x-ray. And when the x-ray results came back, they said she just have so much parasites that the parasites are all around my organs and are destroying from like pushing on and destroying. So they just put me on an anti-parasite medication. And after that, it got solved. But it was fascinating because
Mhm.
I had like you see kids having the small white worms every now and then, and you take medication for that. But um, I did not know that it could be so much parasites that you're in that amount of pain. It's crazy. And people are thinking that parasites are just something that kids are struggling with, but everyone of you out there have parasites in your stomach. And I have done several parasite cleansing and it's fascinating what can come out of you.
Mhm.
I'm talking like 4 foot amoebas, like they're just living organisms living inside of you, and they feed off sugar, they feed off iron, they feed off all different kinds of nutrients, which can leave you to struggle with nutrition deficiency because the parasites are taking all the nutrients, and they can also cause you to have swollen stomach. One time I was starting to feel so frustrated because anything I ate made me bloated, even a banana, like, and I ended up doing a parasite cleanse, and after that I wasn't bloated anymore. So it's very fascinating what can show. But now you're doing a parasite cleanse, right?
Yes. And so then also I learned that my ileocecal valve was not working properly. And so there were some like exercises, manipulations that I do on my stomach that I'm trying to get that to function better. And then we also learned my gallbladder. So it's not functioning quite as it should. And so I'm right in the middle of my gallbladder cleanse. And so I'm anxious to see how that will help so that I can absorb the oil better.
Because she was taking the right amount. But when you're not having a gallbladder that's functioning, you're not going to be able to release the enzymes that we need to be able to cut the oil down to smaller pieces, which means that you're not going to be able to absorb it properly. We did change it out so that you are using another type of oil, which you don't have to cut down. So it's easier for your body to absorb. But this is where I'm telling you the testing is so important because we could see that what she took in didn't match her result. And it gives an indicator that something was still wrong. And of course, the pain was a symptom too of the body not being able to function. And doing the thermoscan showing that your gallbladder was struggling and the mechanism for releasing your bile wasn't able to function properly. So there is a lot of things, and I just hope that this episode will inspire you guys to, if you start feeling that something is off, like there is a lot of things we can do,
Mhm.
and there is a lot of people out there that are qualified to really, that you should seek out, things that you should seek out when you're struggling with help. And this is just another tool that can be very good for people that want to like figure out the last piece, like what is going on. And the thermoscan can give so much information, anything from like, I mean,
It's fascinating. The amount of information that I got from my report um, was for me, it was all of the little pieces. I had my puzzle, it wasn't complete. And now I feel like I have some of the final pieces to my puzzle. So I'm anxious to retest here in the next 2 weeks. And so I am really hoping to get below 3.0 to 1. So,
yeah, and like the thermoscan too. Um, that can be also a safer option for people that want to do breast scans if you are wanting to, like if you are worried about breast cancer, because it can be even more secure to go and check that out on yearly basis. And if you have some scans that you can always look at from previous years, they're going to be able to uh, see if there's anything else going on in your body and it's less harmful for your body.
there's no
And
radiation. It's totally safe.
Exactly. So it's just a very good option for people that might want to try to avoid radiation because the frequency of us doing and radiating our, yeah, the mammograms, it may not be helping us prevent breast cancer. It might even accelerate the amount of it. I'm not going to go too deep into that.
Everybody's on their own journey, but that was my journey.
Yes, but I just wanted to highlight that if someone look it up, because there is options, we're just not educated about it.
Mhm.
So lovely. You're on your body hacking journey still, but I love how you're always seeking out more and more information and doing amazing, trying your best. And how are you feeling?
Great. I feel great.
Huh. And tell us about your life. Like you're working full time, you're a busy single mom, like,
So, yeah, no, life is great working, and my daughter keeps me busy, and
and her grandkids.
yeah, I'm gonna have five. Yes, another one here coming in the spring. So, yeah, I enjoy spending lots of time with my family. I volunteer at the school. Actually, I participate in the football games and the basketball games, and I like to work those and just stay active.
Well, thank you so much, Gidget, for coming on today and sharing your story and your journey. Is there anything else you would like to tell people to get like inspire people with?
So first of all, I would like to thank you, Michaela, and then because I wouldn't have the answers that I have today, and I wouldn't feel as good as I do if it weren't for you. And so I feel like truly it is a journey. And even when you reach those points where you don't have the answers, don't stop. Just keep seeking to find that, because you will find the answer eventually. But I had to go a different route than the traditional medical route. So
Thank you so much, Gidget, for coming on and sharing your journey. And we're rooting for you.
oh, thank you. Thank you. 3.0. Let's go.
3.0, let's go. Thank you guys for joining in today. And yeah, go out there, take care of you guys, and always ask the question, what else can I do? Bye bye. Hey guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to do one thing for me. Think of one person you want to share this podcast with and copy the link and send it right away. Thanks for playing an important role in the Blue Zone community. And if you want to keep on building a better you, one essential building block at a time, hit that subscribe button. See you in the next episode.